All right, and we are starting things off on good old Jagannatha. And in the lower left, representing Litecoin G, this is our red Zerg, MeomaikA.
Cool kid still gas stealing there. Not many players opt for that anymore. Up here in the top right, representing Pakistan, currently residing in the UK. Up here in the top right, representing SC2, it's TeebuL.
And TeebuL's already had one really strong showing against one of the best Zergs in the region in Demi. And, that's quite an important win to sort of show off the form of your PVZ. And he mixed it up a little bit. We saw a little bit of Void Ray. We saw a charge timing. We saw some Adept Harass into a more normal, like, third base macro style. So he's definitely got a lot of different strategies that he's comfortable playing in this matchup, and that's going to do him a credit here in the best of 5 format.
I'm sorry, I'm just kind of giggling to myself at the way the pro gamers have both set up their cameras.
Perfect framing, Pig.
It's so funny because I'm like, it's just, obviously as someone who's always streaming and casting these days and stuff, and I'm just like, I should stream with my camera set up like one of those one day. I like it. Just in the corner of the frame there, we can see the edge of what appears to be a window or a painting or something. I don't know what that is on Meo's wall. I'm really curious now. But I guess I'll have to focus on the gameplay because just 2 Zerglings to start off for Meo. As you said, pull first into the 17 hatch, takes a gas behind it, not especially fast, but not too slow, and a temporary full wall off with another Cybercore. And that's going to allow TeebuL to not have to build a Zealot. Of course, was worried about 4 or 6 Zerglings coming out. He's going to go Stalker Warp Gate first, is TeebuL, so wanting to deny the scouting.
Does have a probe sitting down there out on the map too. We'll see if he drops anything there. He's not afraid to do a bit of aggression early on as TeebuL, and he also wants to keep tabs on what Meo is doing because he's so hard to read. Things like, okay, is there a third base and is there going to be a third base are important questions to answer for yourself. But he is opting for the Stargate here, so that'll not only give him the harassment, of course, but it lets him sort of float around and keep an eye on what Meo's doing.
So that's a slightly later Stargate for TeebuL. I say slightly, quite a lot, about 20-25 seconds later than normal. So he's gone for the Stalker, the Warp Gate. Now this kind of gives off the illusion of I'm playing Twilight Robo, I'm playing ground-based play. The thing is, I don't know if you're really going to get an overreaction out of Meo, because Meo likes to rush Hydras in just about any situation anyway. He has a little supply block losing that Overlord, so that's actually a very nasty 36 supply block. He has to take some an Extractor. He's building a few Spores, which is super wild, because those are really early. So he's actually, despite seeing Warp Gate and Stargate, Meo's building Warp Gate and a Stalker, which means there can't be a fast Stargate. He's built Spores as if it's the fastest possible Stargate. So this is Meo playing very safe and saying, I'm not gonna, I know you're a bit tricky. I'm not gonna fall for any mind games you play. And that's really bizarre because TeebuL has specifically given him the information so that he shouldn't really be ready for an Oracle.
I feel like this is just Meo on autopilot. Like, this is just what he wants his setup to be. He's quite comfortable sacrificing drone count early on to get Lings out and start poking out on the map, to get as many Spores as he needs, because he is so aggressive that he's not necessarily going to be that guy with 6 to 8 queens at home defending everything while he macros up. And here's the Oracle. Queen's going to be fighting that away, but not a lot of drones there to pick off at the third base anyhow.
I actually feel like you're absolutely right with that analysis. A little bit on autopilot is Meo. And I actually think in this scenario, this is not a crazy hyper-efficient kind of jump to the next stage. It's been 1 Oracle, 1 Void Ray. Twilight Council on the way behind this. Now, I don't really think you can go Glaives here, but there's no Forge and there's no Robo. And that's what surprises me a little bit, because I wonder what TeebuL's next... That's a very late Resonating Glaives. Now, you technically can beat Hydraling with Glaive Adepts, but it's a bit dicier than just using Charge Zealots. They're cheaper, they got a bit more tankiness to them. Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Hmm. I guess, yeah, maybe the thinking is knowing that Mio is very Ling heavy for quite some time. Um, I don't know, because like Lings aren't really the ideal setup against Adepts, but he's already pumping Hydras. That's the thing. You can
Yeah.
sometimes not tell when that is actually going to start for Mio. In this case, he's going to have quite the number, so I'm not seeing how those Adepts would be able to slip in there and do some damage, but maybe if Mio was in a more aggressive position, he could slip in. However, if he's more aggressive, then what do you actually have to defend you against this onslaught of Hydra Ling that's going to be coming?
Well, that's it. I mean, Adepts work okay with shield batteries, but now going into a second Stargate, none of this is great versus Hydra Zergling. I feel on 3 gate, I think TeebuL might just get run over by Hydra Ling. He's got, oh, actually, where's the rest of the units? He's going to try and jump on it, but the Hydras do get back to the safety. Wait, there's no Baneling Nest, though, and actually there's not enough Hydras together yet. The problem is always going to be the scaling, and especially if a Baneling Nest comes down. If you can get the Queens up front to tank, if you can get enough Hydras together, they got crazy good damage. And it's actually going to be a swap into Phoenix here. We're going to have Mass Adept Phoenix versus Hydra Ling. This is so sick. This is the strangest sort of set of units interacting. I mean, how often do you see this?
Yeah, I think never is the answer. We'll see how this pans out. TeebuL saw what was supposed to be coming there too with that Oracle. I think it just ran over some of the Queens and Hydras as he was starting to try and head towards the middle of the map. So he turns around, has a look in the main, but it's kind of been thwarted. Mio couldn't comfortably walk out through the middle of the map and get this attack started, so he's pulled back. He is going to send those Lings out. We'll see if he commits anywhere with those. He likes to be active with them no matter what. But just now, there's that Baneling Nest that you were talking about, Pig.
Yeah, Banelings will be amazing versus those Adepts if they're clumped up. But Templar Archives is on the way. Charge, Forge, you know, TeebuL is going to the next step. He's built a few Phoenix, but not too many, so it's now going to have a Gateway Explosion. 66 probes versus 53 drones, though. So Mio is super duper all in on what is essentially a 2 and a little bit base economy, right? He's not really used his third much at all. It's just a bit of extra mineral mining, and that's it. 4 gas Hydras. Banelings will not have Bane speed. This is one giant all-in attack, and it has to break TeebuL. Now, TeebuL's starting to add cannons and Void Rays. He does have quite a few shield batteries. He's got 1 or 2 stasis traps that could come in big. I think there's an Overseer with the army, but it's going to be a very close fight, and the Hydras especially represent a lot of damage output.
Wants to try and trigger those stasis traps if he can with just a couple of Lings so the Banelings don't get caught. That's it for the stasis wards. Ooh, force fields just prevent him from closing the distance there, though. Hydra's starting to shell away at whatever structure is in range. Is there enough here for TeebuL? This army looks pretty small in comparison. Oh no!
Oh, some big Baneling hits there. Those batteries on the left side are all out of juice, and I think Mio, he looks like he's starting to crack through. The cannons in the natural are holding strong, so the Lings are getting their butt kicked on the right side. There's only 2 cannons left here, though. Adepts warping in, but there's not that many. There's no healing left. The Phoenix trying to join in, but that ball of Hydras has just not been dealt with.
No, and despite having charge and everything on the way, he just doesn't have the units that he needs to clean that up, and Mio is gonna take game number 1. Whew, that was extremely wild for a first map. I'm not sure what happened there.
I mean, it was so strange because I think you could kind of see TeebuL there being worried about the 1,000 things that could come his way. And it was a really clever way of dealing with it. The Adepts coming out, I think, was a very clever way. But I think I've got to just say straight up, the Stargate was a little bit delayed early on because he was so worried with that Cybercore wall-off. So he kind of did a tricky opening, which is so unnecessary versus MeomaikA at the start of the game because, like you said, he just went on autopilot. And when this push came to shove, there was quite a few cannons and so on, but they weren't really part of this fight. So I think cannons like around where those force fields and sentries and archons were, just a few cannons a little bit closer to the middle ground would have been really nice to shore up that defense. And I think using battery overcharge a bit later on the left side of this fight rather than on the right might have allowed TeebuL to hang on. But it was always going to be a hard ask simply because Adepts don't scale well into those bigger fights. If he could jump on those first pack of Hydras and kill them, I think this would have looked genius for TeebuL. But Mio did a great job of just getting the heck out of there. He realized he was in a dangerous situation, added the Banelings, came back later, and it felt like Mio just found that weak point. He said, "Ooh, I'm weak, get out of here." And then he said, it's hard for you to transition off of that one arc on 3 Phoenix, 3 Void Rays, a pack of Adepts. It was a lot of little pieces. It wasn't one complete army yet for TeebuL.
Yeah, that's exactly right. A very, very interesting match for the first game between these two. Very keen to see what the next ones look like after that one. So we're going to take a quick break, folks, and when we come back, we'll be continuing the series. Welcome back. We are one game deep in TeebuL versus MeomaikA. Not quite the outcome that we expected, nor the strategies that we expected in the first game. So very interested to see how the rest of the series is gonna turn out. It could be a little longer than we anticipated, I feel. But I'm still feeling the TeebuL hype chain. We'll have to see.
Absolutely, Zeph. Going into it, I really was expecting, based on past Mio games, past TeebuL games, TeebuL to lock down on Void Ray Oracle for sure for the opening, but I was expecting then more Void Rays and a Robo for Disruptors. I was thinking it was just going to be 3 base, kind of cannon, battery, Void Rays, Disruptors, and Reactive Phoenix. Anticipating, of course, the Muta switch. We saw the Phoenix there, but there was never the Disruptors. And we saw just what Mio can do. If you don't have some sort of game-changing splash damage, the Hydra Brain can cause you some big troubles.
Certainly can. The countdown has begun, and we'll be hopping into map number 2 shortly. And hopefully this one goes a little nicer for TeebuL. I think you're right. He seemed a little bit uncertain about how to deal with the threat of MeomaikA. So things looked a little bit wacky there. He was kind of trying to answer all the questions at once. But this is a new map, a fresh start. We're on Oxide. And in the bottom left, in the red, leading 1-0 in the series, this is MeomaikA.
12 pool, all right. Woof. Well, that definitely is a hard one to deal with. It puts pressure on the opponent. Can he stay cool, calm, and collected? Especially, of course, playing with the ping disadvantage, representing Storm Gaming. This is TeebuL. Does send the probe out after the gateway, thankfully. This is actually a map we don't see much 12 pool on here because it's longer rush distance. I think it's like about 35 seconds, 36 seconds maybe. I believe it's the longest in the pool actually is Oxide. And you've also got the fact that it's an easy ramp to wall off. So it's one of the maps where maybe Mio was anticipating TeebuL to not scout, be a bit super greedy. But I think TeebuL's going to be very thankful. He's looking for a drone hidden to go for a pull first. Expand, but sees that very early pull the eggs. He's going to pull back. Now, there's a few different ways you can deal with this. The most standard is to get the second gateway, pump out a Zealot, and pull a few probes down. However, on this map with such a good wall off, you might not even need to build the or pull the probes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Let's see how this ends up. Mio is a little bit hard to read in terms of how much he's going to commit to any sort of pull first or early pull as well. He, in general, likes to alternate between producing drones and producing, at the very least, some lings. So you kind of got to just stay on the ball with the scouting and try and make a decision about what he's doing here. But in the early stages, TeebuL has that wall off. Always a little bit annoying because he's going to be able to nibble at those buildings. But so far, so good. 2 adepts on the way here.
Yeah, and can always send the Zealot out potentially, but doesn't want to get it surrounded. It's just such a good wall off, though. Normally, the Zealot needs to come out. You need to have pulled probes here because the Cybercore or the gateway is exposed. But here, the Cybercore had such limited surface area. There was no way to pull anything down. So Mio doesn't really find any significant damage. It does, of course, still delay the Nexus. It's an absolutely playable position, but doesn't find the big damage that he would have liked. And interestingly, he was waiting in the grass, looking for an ambush on the Adept coming out. Adept goes to the left side. He's still going to look for the ambush, hoping to catch TeebuL off guard.
That's a pretty nice idea from him there, but he is pulling back almost to that natural base. The Adept trying to be sneaky, but guess what? Surprise! All his closest Ling buddies are waiting for him. The Shade does go off back towards Mio's base, and he's actually going to complete that.
And the Queen's very well positioned there from Mio, so actually going to be a great shutdown on this first Adept, and yeah, that's going to go down. Stargate, though, is much quicker comparatively, this game, when you take into account how the opening went especially. It's actually slightly faster than the Stargate was down off a normal expand build in the last game. Oracle is going to be on the way out there. Natural does finish up for TeebuL, who's still up a couple of workers, and Mio, once again, is building obscenely fast Spore Crawlers. He is really not wanting to take any damage to Oracles. To have your spores finish before the first Oracle even pops, I mean, this is crazy spore timings. Mio's only on 26 drones. Like, that's actually, I got to be critical, that's inefficient. Like, that is just way too early for Spore Crawlers. There is no way he could have an Oracle to your base by this timing.
This is where people, I think, get frustrated playing against Mio as well. Like, if he wins this game and you go back and you watch the replay and you're like, what the hell was he doing? He's got like no drones and he's making spores. Are you kidding me? So there's these little weird things in his play that aren't optimized at all, but he just doesn't care. Like they're not things that he's looking to improve on or address, and he still often makes it work despite that. But it definitely does bite him in the behind sometimes. In comes that Oracle. We'll see how many workers he can rack up. Obviously, he's well defended already, so it may just be a bit more of a scouting tool here.
Yeah, you find more of an opportunity on Meo's third because his third is so consistently super late in his games in all matchups. Doesn't really expand all that quickly. Now, he is getting close to 50 workers very fast. This game is Meo, and already has quite a bit of gas saved up. So keep our eyes on if it's the standard Hydra Link setup or something else.
It is something else. Going straight into the Spire this time. Catching on to the fact that TeebuL likes his Stargate as well, and we've already seen Meo do one Spire style against a whole lot of Stargate units. He went Muta Corruptor. And he's really aggressive. If that's what he's going to do here, you can expect to see him like dive on top of air armies to try and stop it from reaching that critical mass. But we'll see how we go here. We'll see how much he commits to it. A couple of depths coming in here, actually getting a fair number of kills. Yeah,
that's a worthy trade. 9. Oh, that's a lot of damage. 9 drones and a couple Zerglings as well. Void Ray out front. He's going to kill that Overlord, I believe, before it finishes. Actually, do Overseer Cocoons have armor as well? It must, actually. I never realized that. Because it was taking way less damage. I don't know how that never clicked for me. But I always thought it just took the same as a regular Overlord, but it must have a bit of extra armor, like the Baneling, the Ravager Cocoon.
Coming in with this bunch of Lings to try and do some counter damage here, and he will be able to find these depths. Possibly can get a couple of probes as well, but
not bad actually. Yeah, 4 probes. That's really worth it there. The Adepts alone, not really, but getting a few of these is good. Gets even one more probe, so causing a little bit of havoc in TeebuL's side of the map. Now, TeebuL's coming across with Void Rays going +1 air attack, and this is the style we were expecting a bit more from TeebuL. But he's actually down in workers this time around in this game. Spy is finished. He hasn't spotted it yet. We haven't actually seen any Spire production just yet either.
Yeah, he actually doesn't have the money, funnily enough. He's starting to get there now, but he has been sitting on quite an amount of gas for a period of time, but no minerals because he's funneling it all into Lings and drones. And now he's in this position where he actually doesn't have an answer for this 4 Void Ray hit squad.
Ooh, Meo's just going to straight up lose his lair. A Ling Run by gets in and does a bit of damage on this base, but he was not ready for those Void Rays, as you said, Zeph. Oh my lord, even drones and Queen going down there. Oh my gosh, he was just not ready for these Void Rays. And he's got Corruptors popping out, but it's like 6 Corruptors. They're not going to do anything versus Void Rays.
Oh, I think this might be getting dangerously close to a GG from Meo. He's losing a lot, and this is very cost inefficient when he tries to engage those as well. Can lose his pool, can lose some more Overlords here. How is Meo realistically going to respond to this? He's just making more Corruptors. It may eventually flush this out, but behind this, 2 more Stargates are coming up.
Wow, and he's still hanging around. I was like, surely you recall here as TeebuL, but he's like, no, I'm doing damage. Let's keep it up. Why not? Meo's on 2 base versus 3. I mean, he's just got his new 3rd base up. He's on 55 drones. He's down in workers. And Fleet Beacon and Twilight Council on the way there for TeebuL. Zealots, Oracle, cannons and batteries ready to deflect this Zergling run by. That one's not going to find anything.
Trying to get this Oracle here with the Corruptors, also taking pot shots at the Phoenix, but with the cannons and the shield battery plus the reinforcements, he has to leave that position. And Meo is still probably going to be taking these small shots at TeebuL, trying to find ways to do damage and keep him off his back. But this is a dire situation. He's basically just got Corrupted. That's all he's got to work with here, because the Lings are at a point where they're really not able to find anywhere to attack. And I mean, that's a very small Corruptor cloud compared to the amount of Stargate units that are about to be out here.
Yeah, there's even a blink transition on the way. But I mean, Void Rays they hard counter Corruptors. When the Zerg's up 20-30 supply, I worry for the Zerg. When the Zerg is down in supply, this is an absolute disaster. He's barely hanging on. He's managing to pick off some of these units. Does get one of the Void Rays. Phoenix are starting to go down. You can see the Zerglings being microed there with the lovely F2 micro, but it does take down the Oracle as well. These last 3 Void Rays will fall. This prismatic alignment is gone, and finally Meo is going to get control of his side of the map again, and I'm saying that as almost every single Corruptor dies, and the Void Rays are still there, Zeph!
Void Rays are wild, man. He even gets another prismatic
Oh my god, and another one?
Dude! Unreal. But I guess the catch there, they just traded both terribly. Like, it was an outright air army swap. But the downside, like you said, he's got Blink coming up behind this. He just finished up a bunch of gates, or rather he is finishing up an extra couple here now. +1 on the way. Meo's still pumping out Corruptors, so...
Caustic Spray will get the 3rd maybe here. Battery Overcharge is trying to heal, but there was no Warping available. He's actually going to kill the 3rd. Gets the 4th. It's going to probably take the 3rd out, man. Battery Overcharge is fantastic, but it's not going to get through that. However, there is about 20 Lings on the map, and that Stalker push is unstoppable.
GG. Another bit of a weird one. I mean, TeebuL just going for Stargate and building up that mass air army. Stalker transition. Just a little bit more than Meo could handle on such a low econ, and investing everything into pure Corruptor at that point.
Yeah, I think might have been worth going Mutas. I understand why he didn't want to go Mutas, because Corruptors get countered by Void Rays, but not as bad as Mutas get countered by Phoenix. Now, this was a really good start for TeebuL. I think just shutting down the 12 ball, right? Didn't let anything in, looked pretty smooth. But the Adept, that as well, that got shut down. So that was good for Meo. He didn't really let any counter damage get on, which is normally the big thing that equalizes in the 12 pool situation. So Meo kind of shut down any real counter damage. But I got to say, those 2 Adepts that got in and killed 9 drones, that was so huge, because that was right before this moment. So Meo was frantically holding down the drone key, building a 4th hatch, and just had nothing that shot up to deal with those Void Rays.
Yeah. Nothing at all. And by this point, I mean, look at the state of his economy. He's only just reaching a more respectable work count, and then immediately losing it because there's a ground threat that he can't handle. He's still trying to retake his main at that point. He hasn't really invested into any other tech. He had the air units and the air upgrade, but nothing on the ground, no other tech structures coming up. He still had to make that lair again if he's going to go down that pathway. So it was just a perfect storm of bad news for Meo at that point. And TeebuL looked a lot more solid in that one, and a little bit less afraid of the endless possibilities that could be coming from Meo.
Indeed, indeed. I think the confidence to just pump out the Void Rays is a really good basis to then react off of first Meo. It just feels like that Stargate, it gives you so many options. The Void Ray is a very well-rounded unit. It gives you the setup to respond to the surprise mutas, which is such a huge percentage of Meo's play, is massive surprise commitments to Mutalisks. If you've got 2 or 3 Stargates, you're already there set up and able to deal with it. So I think a good thing to see TeebuL stabilize after a rocky game 1 and show that he could shut it down. A little unfortunate, that Meo there just kind of it's you're just not really expecting 5 Void Rays to show up so early. It's such a rare thing for them to commit so deep in, but hey, if you play low on queens, that can catch you off. And I think part of the problem is because Meo so often rushes Hydralisks and people are kind of intimidated by the fear of that. They're not pushing in with Void Rays and punishing him like that. But with the Spire, it's a much longer tech. It takes an extra minute almost on top of the Hydra Den to finish. So there's just no quick response available.
Yeah, I think that looked a lot more comfortable, because I think when players first start versing MeomaikA in tournaments and stuff, it's easy to be too defensive or overreact to the things that he does and not really feel confident going for something, as you said, because you might need to defend at any moment. So yeah, I think TeebuL is probably finding a bit of a rhythm here now, and I still expect that he should be able to overcome Meo in the long run. But you also never know how Meo is going to react to what you're doing to him. So sometimes you can end up with weird compositions and game states that can still throw you. Let's see how we end up here on 2000 Atmospheres. We're tied 1-1, And this gentleman in the bottom left from Psystorm is TeebuL.
And his opponent in the top right, the Vietnamese scientist, the madman, the wizard, the magician. This is Litecoin Gaming's MeomaikA. You know what I've really been missing from Meo's play recently is I'd love to see some more hatch block shenanigans. I've seen so many fantastic hatchery block 12 pool plus hatchery in the wall off openings that don't have to necessarily be all in, but can really mess up the Protoss's build order. And I think those situations, the more messed up the game is, the more comfortable Meo is, the less comfortable his opponents are, right? I think that's the one thing which I look at and I say, I mean, he's won one in this series, but I feel like he can mess the early games up even more. I think he's playing almost too predictable in the opening stage, and I like that he mixed a 12 pool in last game, but there was no special sauce on the follow-up. It was just 12 pool into droning up behind it. I'd like to see just a few more of those very, weird shenanigans that are going to put the Protoss in an unpracticed situation.
Yeah, that's spot on. Meo thrives in chaos, and I think it has to be a chaos that he controls too, because when you see him start to flounder and not really know what to make, or because he's on such a low drone count, not have the economy to support the aggression that he usually wants to do, that's where you see him fall apart a little bit. But yeah, interesting. We'll see what happens here. Just grabbing a hatchery, not so much aggression in the early stages this time around, but there's always time for that. I mean, as soon as that speed kicks in, you can bet he's going to be having a few links on the map.
So it's interesting, he fakes the warp gate being delayed to try and keep the Overlord hanging around a bit longer than it otherwise might. But the Overlord does actually pull back to safety, and the Stalker pops on the inside trying to hide its presence, and he's hoping that Meo comes in with the Overlord so he can kill it, but it's skirting the edge, and skirting the edge, it is safe. Now, accidentally puts a Twilight, was that down, or a Robo, cancels it, and does put the Stargate down.
It's trolling us a little bit. Yep, sticking with the old faithful build. I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a Protoss that isn't going Stargate in this current meta.
That's an even quicker layer than he sometimes does for Meo. Oh, actually, only a few seconds quicker. Not that big of a deal. If there's anyone else, we'd be shouting Nidus Worm or something super duper cheesy, but this is kind of how he likes to just open up, gets those Hydras out, they shoot up, they shoot down. It really allows him to zone out his opponent's vision and deny map control. Now, Meo is actually, he already had his spores down and halfway built by this point after a 12 pool opening, which was bizarre, and it did put him behind. This time, he's delaying his spores just a little bit longer, and that does give him a bit more time to drone. I think it's a much more solid start. The longer he delays those spores, especially against these kind of delayed Stargate openings of TeebuL, the better for him.
Certainly, yeah. Keen to see what the tech is going to be with this lair as it finishes up, and yep, it's going to be Hydras once again. We have actually seen him Nidus once already, but typically I'm keeping an eye on the queen count around that, because he does like to send the whole, the Ling Queen Hydra sort of composition to try and get that done, even if he has to drop it sort of close to the front of the base and just rally in. And gonna try and find some kills here is this Oracle, but so far only getting a single lava.
Couple of tricks though, and every cancel you get there does lose minerals, bit of mining time as well, so not too bad. Robo's up nice and early for TeebuL, and an incredibly quick Warp Prism off the back of just one Oracle into a Twilight more gateways. Are we going to see... Oh, wow. Charge Archon. Okay. So if you're only building Lings and Hydras, I mean, not only do Glaive Adepts do okay against that, Zealot Archon just destroys that in a lot of situations. If you can get similar army supply, Zealot Archon just destroys the Zerglings. Once they get on the Hydras crumple very quickly. But there are points where, like, if you attack into a concave of Hydras, like, your units can die pretty quickly, right? If the Queens can get up front and tank, they can deal with it. So as powerful as this composition is, yeah, I like that. Okay, so I was going to say, you'd still need to get a third base up, because if he just knows you're all inning, Meo can deal with it. Now, interestingly, Meo's dropping a Roach Warren Oh my, what the? That's so bizarre.
I didn't know he knew you could make one of those, to be honest with you. So that's a pretty cool development. And I'm wondering what has triggered that from him.
I think he must have seen the Warp Prism and have some
Uh,
idea that there's some sort of ground follow-up, and he's only seen one Oracle. So I think he's aware of the fact that, wait, why is there only been one Stargate unit? There could be a huge ground army coming, whatever it is. And roaches are going to kind of just be such a good tank!
oh, dude.
Oh! Hands off the
Oh.
mouse and keyboard there for TeebuL. He had his head in his hands there. Oh, that was a disaster. Now, obviously, the battle report doesn't show up correctly there it counts the Warp Prism pilot as being the one that took down the Archons. It was his fault for crashing the Warp Prism, but that shows it a little bit more clearly. And that's a disaster, and that is just huge. He's going to try and make Storm as his sort of like comeback mechanic to get back in this game, big splash damage spell. But look at Meo's worker advantage. He's already so far ahead in the economy.
Yeah, this is one of those weird games where Meo, after typically being so aggressive off low drone counts, is actually just powering up. And he's going to have that economy, that 4 base, to start slapping out units here. He's getting mad overlords. He's got the speed, the +1, the Hydra range. It's all sort of going to culminate into this big Roach Hydra force that he can start throwing at TeebuL. And, you know, after dealing with the sort of one thing that TeebuL was going to throw at him in the early stages here, he can feel a little bit more confident about handling him as we come into this mid-game here. And TeebuL is actually going to move forward and try and get something happening, but he certainly has had a rough start here.
53 probes versus 73 drones. A lot of charge zealots, though. And let's see. I mean, that's a lot of zealots. Don't see any Psystorm in there. A single Adept in the main actually picks off a couple of workers, which is kind of nice. He's looking for the force fields in the choke point, and Meo wisely does not let those land. The Zealots, though, chasing down the drones, doing a good job. The rocks get taken down, and now Meo can engage.
Yeah, he's just charging after him here. A few Zealots on the left-hand side getting cleaned up as he does this. A couple of force fields might strip off a couple of roaches from that force, but this is still quite a lot from Meo. And TeebuL going to try and buy himself some time with that Warp Prism heading out towards the main. At the same time, doing a warp in at home here to try and help himself defend. Meo's looking for that concave, that big spread against this army. That is a high damage output from Meo. And while TeebuL has managed to slaughter a bunch of that Roach Hydra, there is so much here for the Zerg, and he's just charging through everything.
Yeah, you got to have equal numbers with Zealots for them to pay off. They're fantastic in equal numbers. They're such a cheap unit, but TeebuL, after losing the Archons, having them completely shut down, thinking about Psystorm, then cancelling it, changing his mind, going back and forth. He went in too many different directions, ended up going for the Zealot attack, and then trying to get to Disruptors behind it, but you could tell he was a bit shook after losing the Warp Prism with the Fat Boys in it, the Archons.
Yeah, I think shook is the right word. It's not like every day that you see the like IRL not like this Twitch emote kind of happening there. This is definitely a really rough moment. That's like his whole plan falling apart. And he's had such success with a charge-based build in the past because Zergs, they don't get hit with it that much. And especially if they're sitting there droning up, they can sometimes just straight up die because they just don't have the units. But not Meo. He read it well. He had enough units to defend whatever was coming. And at the end of the day, he's absolutely bopped TeebuL in this one.
Ooh, yeah. You know, Meo is like, yeah, when he makes roaches, it's actually quite frightening because he will push on you like no tomorrow. There will just be roaches, more roaches than you've ever seen before. And you can kill an army of roaches and another one would be right behind it. I kind of wish that game went on just so we could see, because that man will just make so many, and he will attack into wild situations. You know, it's always funny with Meo because you watch him attack and he always wants to go after the power units of the Protoss. You saw there, he was kind of pushing through the Zealots and just focusing the Immortals down. And it's so high risk, high reward, because there are times where it's like, dude, you're clumping your units and the splash damage is ripping them up. But there's other times where it's like, hey, he sniped the Colossus, and suddenly it's like, it's almost game over immediately.
Yeah, Mio only really does power moves in these games. He just does not care at all. It's magical to watch. Guys, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll be continuing the series between TeebuL and MeomaikA. Don't go away. And we're back once again, and it's almost time for map number 4 between these guys. Not gonna lie to you, Pig, I thought this might be like a pretty straightforward 3-1 TeebuL, 3-0 TeebuL, but it's not necessarily looking that way, is it?
No, I mean, you actually, I think, kind of foretold this a little bit when you mentioned how TeebuL doesn't really study up on his opponents as much and focuses more on the matchup. And no doubt he's looked at what Meo does a little bit, but we still see him trying to play mind games with the man where I think trying to, it's, there's been plenty of movies where they like hop in the minds of serial killers or something like that. It's like one of those terrible films. Don't do it. Don't try and play mind games with Meo. Build extra defense, build disruptors, and shore up the defenses on that third. Make lots of void rays. I think, you know, we've seen kind of delayed Stargates and Stalkers looking into nice scoutings and this sort of stuff. But this guy down here seems to be very comfortable in these scenarios, and he's finding those mid-game kill timings that he always commits to. In the bottom left-hand side, representing Litecoin Gaming, this is MeomaikA.
And down here in the bottom right from Psystorm, this is our blue Protoss fighting for his life here in the winners bracket of the playoffs. This is TeebuL. Yeah, I think you're right, Pig. You can't really try and mind game this guy. He kind of invented mind games, but sort of not, because there's not a whole lot of sense behind what he does sometimes. But very hard to sort of analyze what he's gonna do and when. He has opted for the pull first here once more, and we can see TeebuL just rolling straight in with that probe to keep tabs on what Meo might be doing here. Blackburn can be a little bit of a weird one. I almost expected Meo to go straight for that gold as a nat, not gonna lie to you, but he has opted for the more conventional one.
For now, yeah, I think, and in this case, I don't usually see it taken as a third either, so probably just a quick fourth base that he can transfer workers to if it's untouched. But definitely interesting to see how it comes out. And yeah, I just don't think there's any real need to deny scouting from Meo. Looking at how he's played against Stardark, against Probe, and now here in this series, it doesn't seem to achieve anything. Now, what's interesting is he started this series very worried about 4 or 6 Zerglings, and he full walled, and he's gonna use that again.
Yeah, that's the way to go. So you don't even have to worry about it. Grabs himself a Stalker, and that can shut down anything too early here from his opponent. And that probe is just chilling over here, waiting to come back in. He's going to be checking for a third base, he's going to be checking for a gold base, just trying to gauge what the follow-up is from Meo here. They are a lot closer together. So, yeah, I wonder if it would be Ling Hydra aggression again from Meo, or if he's going to opt for something a little different. I feel like that was what he did against Stardark. Pretty sure it was Ling Hydra and then maybe like a Spire later on.
Well, you know what's interesting? He does go for the gold base as his third, and meanwhile there's a quick robo from TeebuL. Now, against a player like MeomaikA, I think doing light pressure off a early robo, like 2 adepts with a warp prism, and then maybe an immortal drop, and then just take your third, I do not like that at all. There's an argument behind the disruptor drop, you know, to do a prism, 2 adepts, but then go for the disruptor drop follow up into a Colossus, 2 base all in, because he goes Hydraling so much. The problem is that these builds are kind of slow to get around, and Meo's the kind of player who if he thinks, you know, he knows what's happening, he very well may just drone into a very nice advantage, turn that into a giant army, and just swamp you. So I'm kind of curious, like, what exactly the next step. There's a shield battery, a second gateway, lots of gas banking up for TeebuL, but no Robo Bay. He's still building probes. This build is honestly, I'm coming up a little bit empty on exactly what TeebuL's goal is with this build. We're going to have to see exactly what he looks to evolve it into. I'm imagining a lot of sentries after this.
Alright, gonna pick up what he's got there with a probe as well.
Right, he's taking the third here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very tricky. That's hard to defend, though. It is hard to defend.
Now Mia's actually gone for Ling Roach here, rather than his more conventional, I guess, Ling Hydra. Okay, there we go. He's actually going to Nidus it too. So this is changing it up again for Mia, and I quite like this actually. There is a chance that he ends up spotting that lower base from TeebuL, but where is that Nidus going to go, do you reckon?
Well, and the question is, what is there to stop it? Because Mio might just run Zerglings in the front door. Like, if he pulls out of the wall. He's got 3 gateway units. His Stargates aren't going to have anything out of them yet if this Nidus goes down straight away. But is he going to wait for the Roaches? Is Mio going to pop it straight away? If Void Rays come out 2 at a time, that will defend this given a minute. But no, he's not being given any time. He needs to go up there right now. It's in his main base right next to the pylon. Probes are pulled. He pulls the gateway units up here as well. But that is popping so fast in that corner of the base. That's going to get a lot of units out.
It certainly is. Let's see how it goes. Queen's here and they're ready to transfuse, and the window has almost closed here for him to get rid of it. He does kill it, but a few Queens and Roaches do unload, and he's going straight for the second Nidus. Already 13 workers going down. This could be a very abrupt end for TeebuL. He's losing the Stalkers here, but the Void Rays are arriving. Is there enough time for him to get enough out here to continue this attack? He's getting Lings out of the Nidus, so he's only got the 2 Queens to deal with the air units for the moment.
Oh, the Void Ray's going to fall to the Queens there, trying to hot drop them, but it's not going to work out. And it looks like Mio here is actually going to be able to get the upset with a Nidus Worm here up against TeebuL. TeebuL going for the sneaky third on the island. And you know what? You cannot play mind games with MeomaikA because he will just go across the map, throw the Nidus Worm in and kill you. Heck yeah, double high five, triple double high five.